Okay, so what we've got is we've got our Cubist style piece on A3 paper. You can see here that I've started to number where I think I would like the particular materials to go. Okay, so if you haven't done that, then please don't panic, because at the moment there's only a guide, and now what we're going to do is you're going to watch this demonstration, and then you'll decide where you're going to put the newspaper and the brown book paper. Okay, so for the start of this, I'm going to do this section here, right, with newspaper. So I get myself a sheet of newspaper. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, this is because I'm lazy, all right, this is how I'm going to try and do it, is just going to copy that line. It doesn't have to be perfectly exact. If you have a look at the Cubist style pieces, all right, you will find that a lot of the newspaper is slightly overlapped. All right, so here, right, can you see here that there's little bits and then they've drawn over the top of it. Okay, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Hence, we're just going to go for a very basic effort. Now, if you do want it to be perfect, then you can of course do that, and I'll show you a few different techniques now. All right, so you will have, if I haven't handed this resource out for you, please remind me to do so now. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to very quickly draw in, okay, that shape. Okay, and for this attempt, I'm going to use scissors to cut out the shape, but I'll show you some other techniques too. Okay, so put that to one side because I am going to use that in a little bit. I would like you to try and use as much of the newspaper as you possibly can. All right, and we can adjust it slightly. Okay, if you want to, if you think actually that's a bit too big, I want that to be a little bit smaller, then you can do. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I am going to, you can see where the lines are over the top. Okay, but I'm just going to glue onto the paper and then onto the edges. So into the shape and then onto the edges. You don't have to copy my exact routine, my way of cutting, or you might find an easier way for yourself. Okay, this is just a basic demonstration. Okay. Glue that down, and then what I'm going to do is, you can use a whiteboard pen, but I think pencil would probably be better. Is now, okay, just quickly, I'm going to draw over the top, okay, where I've gone over those lines. Okay, so now I know I've got my lines in there, and you just keep on going. Okay, just like that. Right, that's with your newspaper. Now again, you can do exactly the same with the book paper. So again, looking at how I'm looking at the sheets here, the examples. I quite like the idea of doing zigzags in book paper, so I'll do exactly that. I don't feel that I want to draw these on as such. Oops. Right, so if you think you're accurate enough with a pair of scissors, you don't need to draw them on, then you feel free. And take your time. To save paper, just going to cut across, and I'm also lazy. Okay, so I've now got these zigzag effects, which are actually from a sailboat that's in front of me that I've just drawn. Okay, so I'm going to glue those straight on. Again, if I feel that I want that line on, I'm just going to draw it on. We'll be doing some shading later on. The Cubist style is completely fragmented, completely broken up. Okay, so it doesn't matter too much if your zigzag isn't perfect, all right, or your lines aren't matched perfectly, because we could then kind of shade into that bit. Please remember that in this session you are not covering the whole piece of paper with brown paper and newspaper, because you're going to do other materials over the next 4 weeks. You're going to use other materials, other techniques. Okay, so we don't want to go too crazy with any of this. Okay, so that's a very basic kind of way. So I'm going to go and draw over, finish off this little owl that I've got in the background. Quite like putting that line in. So you just go over, pressing on quite hard, I think, at this point, so you can actually see your lines. Okay, just going over. All right, where you maybe want to keep a line. If you don't want to keep any lines, then that's fine, but I would suggest that you keep a few. Okay, with the newspaper, the glue will take a bit of time to dry through the newspaper, so therefore you might need to go back and add those lines in. Okay, so if, for example, you want an exact shape, then we can do your basic collage. All right, so if just to balance it out, I'm going to do this section here in paper. Okay, so all the brown paper. Okay, so I'm just going to rip it up, little tiny pieces like this. Okay, and I'm just going to put them into the shape. So again, straight onto the glue, and I'm going to make sure that it's flat against that edge. It doesn't matter how many times it's overlapping. Okay, it's flat over that edge. I'm going to do the outline of it first. Make sure you're putting plenty of glue on. I'm trying to use more of the writing rather than the actual, just, brown paper. Just because that's my preference. So again, even if you've put your numbers on here and you've decided that you're going to change them, that really doesn't matter. Try not to go too big with these bits, because it's this, again, fragmentation here. Right, that fragmentation, even of the letters, that fits into the Cubist style and gets you quite high marks. Okay, so don't go too big, unless you're after a completely different effect. Then, but you want it to be all broken up if possible. So it doesn't matter how many times this overlaps, I'm going over and over until I've got the correct shape. You'll see here I've got a bit of a gap, so I just need to rip something a bit smaller. Perfect. I'm just trying to get rid of all the white gaps. Okay, so looking at this pattern here, okay, I think that for me, that kind of resembles the kind of almost like fragmented glass of the vase. So I've actually got a vase here. So I do quite like that for the vase. And on the vase that I've drawn, it's quite light at the bottom and it gets darker as you go up. So I kind of like the idea of potentially adding a little bit more of this fragmented paper that makes this remnant of the patterns in the vase. But you can see here I'm adjusting my ideas, I'm adjusting my plans. Okay, so I'm going to carry on here, but at this time I'm going to fragment it up. Okay, but I'm going to add another shape in here. Okay, I want these lines to be completed with something else. All right, so I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap. Maybe I could add string or something into the lines of that vase. So I am definitely going to leave a bit of a gap just so I can see where everything's going. I'm going to use bigger pieces. Just because this is quite a large gap. And obviously, as you can see, you do tend to overlap quite a bit as well. So please do feel free to move with your ideas as something happens as you use a technique. Don't you feel you have to stick to it. You might be tempted when you're doing something like this to rip all of your paper up. To start off with, if possible, try not to do that because you may not use it all. Now, if you want to rip like 10-15 pieces because you know you've got half an hour, then that's different. But if you are just going to spend the next 5 minutes ripping things up, then I'd rather you didn't. Otherwise it's just going to be a bit of a mess when it comes to packing away. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just get rid of some of these white or clear gaps. I prefer the writing. I think the writing fragments up the vase a little bit more. Okay, now because you can see some of these bits sticking up, what I'm going to do, and not all of you will want to do this, I understand that, okay, is I'm just going to rub my finger onto the glue stick and just go over the top of the paper and just push the glue underneath slightly. You don't have to do this if you don't like the idea of it. You want your work mega sticky. It will dry. So that's all I'm doing. Please be sensible when you're doing this. Okay, so I'm just going to have a think about where else I can do the newspaper. But this time, instead of cutting it, okay, I am going to rip it. And I quite like the idea of having some words in the style of the artists. Okay, so I'm going to think of what sentence might represent me, what represents the Cubist artwork. So at this point your fingers might be as sticky as mine, so in which case you might have to use an antibacterial wipe just to get them a bit cleaner. And you see how thoughtful you've got to be with this. I'm going to possibly stick that there. I'm just going to have a little look through the paper and see if I can find anything, okay, that might appropriately fit into the theme of either music or still life. And I quite like it's a little wacky. I think Cubist artwork is quite wacky. Obviously you guys have got a little bit more time to try and find words that maybe you're a little bit happier with. So I am going to put this here. No. And the reason why I'm using words is again because the Cubists have used some words in their work too. Okay, the word journal, the sound of music, etc. And last but not least, I think I'm going to do these two eyes as newspaper. So I'm kind of thinking as I'm going along, really. So just going to cut out some circles. Yep, quite like that. You need a bigger one. Right, yeah, one big and one small. Swap those around. Just because of the golden spot top right hand corner. If they're the other way around, this one is bigger, so it kind of guides your eyes around a little bit more. So that's my thought. Now the reason why I did the glue like this and rather than it being on the table is it makes less mess to clean up. Yeah, and I know I've covered up all of the shapes inside, but now we're going to draw. Okay, so I'll wait for that to dry. Let's get rid of all my paper for now. Okay, and what I'm now going to do is, again, we're looking at the Cubist artwork. Can you see here where they've started to shade? Okay, we're going to have a go at shading over the top of this paper, like we did in the previous work. I'm just going to crispen up this line. The pencil isn't showing up very well here, so what I'm going to do is I'll try pencil, trying to shade in those individual shapes, the geometric shapes. However, what I might find is that using pencil over the top pen might be better over the top. Okay. Just a normal black biro. Yeah, that's better. And I think what I'm going to do is actually take this biro into this next shape and have this next shape just as biro, just shaded. That way it's starting to connect a little bit more.